Ultimate Warriorz is an arena game where players control fantasy creatures that fight in, well, an arena. And the point is not just to destroy the enemy, but to do so while you're also giving the audience a good show. The audience is an abstract entity that supposedly is sitting around the arena and enjoying the fight. This is the box of the game, which is also why I'm not showing you the box. Well, I am, but not a traditional thing like I'm showing you the lid of the box first. Because the box becomes the play area, becomes the three-dimensional arena, which looks cute, gimmicky, thanks to these inserts here. The box looks a little bit more like a fantasy arena, but these elements and the three-dimensional aspect of it really don't come into play in any way. It is all cosmetic, and if anything, it may make reaching inside the arena a little harder for little young players. This definitely is a game that is accessible to very young players. If your child can play King of Tokyo, then they definitely can play this one. If they cannot play King of Tokyo, they may be able to play this one because it is considerably simpler. For example, there aren't cards with superpowers. There isn't any reading involved like there is in King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo, of course, you can read the cards to your children, which is what I do, and children that do not know how to read can still play, but this one is even easier. And I mentioned King of Tokyo because that really is the first automatic, most natural comparison that comes to mind, since the game is about fighting among fantasy monsters, among non-real monsters for fighting and taking out your opponents is the main goal in a form that is accessible to young players. Now, how does it work? Each player controls a character. Characters are represented by these nice looking fun standees. They go on the board. The board is divided in these 6 areas and a central area. The players set up their characters at the beginning of the game, and then they start working on their cards. Each character comes with a base card. You can tell it for the different back, from different back. You put it there on the table, and then you have this other hand of cards that goes in your hand. You also have life points. These tokens represent life points. When you receive hits, you lose life points, and when you go down to 0, your monster, your character, is eliminated. You also have a lucky charm, which you can use once during the game. You flip it face down, and you use it to force an opponent to reroll up to 3 dice, or to turn a die from one side to its exact opposite. So a 5 becomes a 2, a 6 becomes a 1, and so on and so forth. Now, at the beginning of each round of the game, each player selects a card from their hand, and then each player puts the card down, face down, by their initial card. Cards have several values on them. This is the initiative value, which is used to decide the order in which characters activate. Protection value or armor value, as you can see, it is printed twice and once upside down, so the player sitting on the other side of the table can still see it easily, because it's a very important value for them when they're attacking you. Here we have movement value, melee attack value, range attack value, and this is the size of the creature, which is used as a tiebreaker in several situations. As you can imagine, if you have 0 in a stat, it means that you cannot use that action. So I guess you can imagine already that this card will not allow you to move, will not allow you to attack in melee, but allows you to perform a range attack. This one allows you to move and to perform a melee attack. So players put down their card that they're selected for this round, and then a player starts calling numbers starting from 8 down to 1. So who has a 8? Who has a 7? Who has a 6? And so on and so forth. When they call the number with your initiative value, then you reveal your card, and that is when you can activate your card. So if you have high numbers, you activate your card, and you do not know yet what other players have, in which order they will activate. There is a fun element in that. When it is your time to activate your character, and there's a tie break, you use the size to resolve the tie. So when you activate your character, simply put, you move the character by a number of spaces that is indicated on the movement value. In this case, it would be 0, 1, 2, depends. So you move if your card allows you to, and then you perform the actions indicated on the card. A melee value will higher than 0, so this is not a good example, but you know what I mean. A melee value that is higher than 0 allows you to attack a character in the same area where you are. A range attack value higher than 0 allows you to attack a character that is not in your own area. You can attack characters in an adjacent area, such as in this case, or non-adjacent areas. But if you're doing so, you will receive a penalty. All attacks are resolved in the same way. You roll a number of d6s, which is equal to the value of your attack. So this is a pretty powerful range attack because it generates 4 dice. Other attacks in melee or range have different values. So the attack of the value indicates the number of dice that you roll those dice, and each number that you roll, which is equal to or higher than the armor of the enemy that you are attacking, inflicts a hit. I probably should have also mentioned that the card that you're using, when you reveal it, goes on top of your initial card, or in later turn goes on top of your previous card. So that also determines, well, the values of the actions that you're taking, but also will modify, in some cases, your armor. Roll the dice. Roll equal to or higher than the armor of the attack of the target, you inflict a hit. For each hit that you inflict, you take a life point from the opponent and you flip it to the other side. Now that's becomes a popularity point for you. Because remember, there is a silent but very demanding audience that is watching the arena fight, and so the more hits you inflict on the opponents, the more spectacular your performance is, the happier they are, and basically the more victory points you gain. For this reason, you will notice that there is a bigger life point token. Each character has one that is bigger than the other. When you inflict a hit on the opponent, the first time that the opponent is hit at all, you take the bigger one, the biggest one, which is worth 3 victory points at the end. Other than that, it is a normal life point token. Now, since this is a performance and the audience paid big bucks to see the show, they don't want the show to be too short. So here you have a turn track that you use, well, to keep track of the turns. At the end of each turn, you simply move this marker by 1. But as you can see, something is up here in the first 3 turns, because if you eliminate a character, an enemy character in one of the first 3 turns, then the people in the audience are annoyed at the fact that the performance will probably be short, and they throw rocks at you for ending one of the reasons of interest in the show too early. So basically you receive range attack with the number of dice indicated there. So if you eliminate somebody in round 1, you get 3 dice of attack against you, 2 dice, 1 die, and then eliminating enemies from round 4 on doesn't have any penalty anymore. So you simply resolve that range attack normally. This is how the game works, pretty much. If before the end of round 7, which is the last round of the game, there is only 1 player standing on the arena, then the player becomes the winner of the game. Otherwise, if there are still multiple characters there, the player with the highest amount of popularity points is the winner. I should also mention that when you eliminate an enemy, you take their standee, and that becomes a trophy for you, and that can be used at the end of the game as a tiebreaker in case more than a character is still there and there is a tiebreak for victory points. Then you use the standee as a tiebreaker. The last tiebreaker, in case still there is a tie at that point, is the size of the character. The smallest character wins the tie. I said that the comparison with King of Tokyo is kind of a natural one when you are playing Ultimate Warriorz. And so that is something that I think needs to be acknowledged in the conclusions, in the general assessment for this game. It is an enjoyable game, which overall I do not prefer to King of Tokyo. I much prefer King of Tokyo. I would say it's a situational thing in which there may be cases where I would prefer to play this one rather than King of Tokyo. So it can be good to have both in your collection, using Ultimate Warriorz as a bit of a plan B in certain situations. What am I talking about? Here's the fact. I find King of Tokyo more exciting because there are more choices, more options, more decisions to make, push your luck components, more upgrades, different ways in which your character can behave, things like this. Which is one of the strengths of the game. This game is much more linear, straightforward, with quote-unquote less stuff in it. Stuff mechanically, I mean. Also component-wise, but that's immaterial. Less stuff in it is a bad thing? Depends. Absolutely depends. It is very straightforward, very simple. Choose your card, resolve the action in the order determined by the initiative points. That's it. Resolve the actions. At the end. Move on. Which is a great thing if you're playing with really young gamers, or with young gamers in general, or with light gamers. Believe it or not, I know some non-gamers that may sometimes play a super easy game if pushed, but King of Tokyo would be like, too many things to remember. Ultimate Warriorz would work for them. But in general, this is the advantage. You can play with anybody. There isn't anyone that would not be able to grasp the basic concepts of this game and to play. And it still, as a game, has some interesting challenges, which is one of them being, for example, hand management. It is nice to throw out your best effects, the awesome things, but of course, then you may not have them later when situations changing on the board. You maybe realize a little too late that you would have made a better use of those cards which you already played. Or another thing is that I'm playing this great card here, but this very turn my opponent is playing a different card, which has a special effect that allows them to do this and that, and maybe to prevent the great effect. Now I'm playing my great card that allows me to perform a mighty melee effect, and my opponent is playing a card with a special effect that protects them from melee this turn, or protects them from range attack, and I just played a card with range attack, because there are special cards and special effects that each player has, each character has, that make also playing the characters a little different. Not in the way that there are a lot of special rules to remember, especially if you're playing with 2-3 players, then you get easily a sense of what the special cards are. It's easy to remember, oh, that character has that one card that protects him from this or that. That one, oh, he can make that powerful attack, maybe it's better if I'm not around that card or until I've seen that that attack has been used, and then I go. That aspect of quote-unquote mind reading, figuring out what the others may be doing based also on what they played before, and you do that in the context in which your resources are also horribly limited, and you need to make sure that you save the right ones for the right moment. All of these things create a range of challenges and interesting decisions that really make the game interesting. It is not a bad game in any sense. As I said, coming from King of Tokyo, it may feel a little too linear, too straightforward to some players. On the other hand, there is a huge advantage that you have here compared to King of Tokyo, which is that the pace of the game is much faster. The game moves faster, and I think that's something that it does. It handles a large number of players better. So if you have many players, well, maybe even more players that would be allowed to play King of Tokyo anyways, then Ultimate Warriorz is an option. Not even an option. You can't play King of Tokyo with that many players, as you can, for example, with Ultimate Warriorz. But even when you go in the realm of like 4 players, 5 players, sometimes it can be a little long. to go around in King of Tokyo. Here, actions are faster to resolve, and you had the sense of you're always involved much more as things are happening during the phase in which you determine who goes. Even if even if you're not the one actually resolving an action, you're pretty excited because oh, I know I'm next, and I wonder, is there gonna be somebody on my same level? Are they gonna go before I am, or am I going to be able to go before, even if we tie for initiative? You just have the sense of always being involved, much more I found than in King of Tokyo, and that board feels pleasantly claustrophobic and crowded with a good number of characters, which is a good thing. So, overall, design-wise, I feel that King of Tokyo is one that's much more interesting, has more angles to it, more wrinkles to it, and overall, I just find it more enjoyable. But there are cases in which, for a straightforward, faster-moving experience, when the teaching of the rules is absolutely minimal, then Ultimate Warriorz may be even better. Say, if my daughter, who is now 5, has some friends over, and there are 5 kids that want to play a board game, then Ultimate Warriorz definitely could be a good option. But listen, overall, it's a good game with some good aspects to it. It may feel a little too lean, a little too light to many gamers, but even in that case, it's a game that moves fast and doesn't last long, so the experience probably will not be too bad. Oh, and before I forget, after telling you about Ultimate Warriorz, I wanted to thank some viewers of my videos that have backed my Kickstarter campaign for 2015. I'm gonna thank 4 of them in this video. They are Jessica Kaufman, James H. Jones, William Gimenez, and Lance A. Hobday. Thank you guys, thank you for the 4 of you for backing my Kickstarter campaign for 2015, and thanks to all of you, my viewers, for watching my videos.